I came in here a few years ago very confused and a little bit afraid, I hate to admit, from the experiences that were happening to me. And everybody here was so great. Barbara and Peter and Melita and Danny and Dr. Jim. Everybody was so welcoming, and especially those mystical warriors back in that experiencer room. Those guys are fearless. And once I started talking about some of things that were happening, and everyone's like going, oh yeah, that's cool. And everything changed. I started to relax and just go with it. So I love this quote, and it has double meaning with this group. For God's sake, give me the man who has brains enough to make a fool of himself. And the story I'm going to tell tonight could be the crown jewel of a lifetime of foolishness on my part. That's my book there. It's called Full Contact Kundalini, and it'll be out soon. So the story I'm going to tell, you lose your friends, embarrass your family, question your insanity, and embark on a career as an outcast, a weirdo, and a freak. But I think I'm among friends tonight. And this is what a Unitarian church minister told me. I was going around to all different churches, and I was looking for the energy that I could see in the meditation temples. I could see it swirling. So I was going to churches, and it was not in any of them, but it was in the Unitarian church, because they took time for quietness and music and self-inflection. And he wanted me to tell him about it, and I was like, no, I'm not this. And he goes, look, the difference between a psychotic and a mystic is the mystic decides who to tell. And I thought that was brilliant. So tonight is going to be straight talk, clear text talk, as we call it in the fire service, radio talk. Traditionally, these things are allegories and metaphors, and they're hidden because they're so weird. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to give it to you straight, and it's going to get weird. It's going to get weird quick. It's going to level off, and then it's going to get weirder.
You let us be the judge of that.
Okay. So Barbara said, yes, I had a career as a firefighter. I loved it. I love these guys. They're my brothers for life. And I loved every shift. I loved every firefighter I worked with. And I think what I loved most about it was a lifetime of service to people. And you were waking up in their nightmare and helping out. And at the end of my career, they sent me my folder. And they put all these letters came in about his crew did this, his crew did that. And we never saw them. They were just going to admin. But when I retired, I went home, I read those letters, and there was dozens of just wonderful things that public safety does. And it's really, when you get that service in your heart, it just really, I don't know, it's just amazing. So this is me at home, and I got a wonderful wife and dogs and chickens, and we live in the woods. And I'm just kind of an ordinary guy, normal, nothing really going on. I spent my life in the fire station, like these guys, just a chucklehead in the station, and there wasn't a whole lot of transcendental, intellectual spiritualism. A lot of grab-assing and water fights. But I did learn something from that job. And what I learned was there's no reverse. You can't back up. When you get 911 calls and you go out, nobody else is coming. You got to go forward. You got to figure it out. And when my reality started to dissolve, this served me. I just kept going forward. I did some pretty reckless things. And and you'll see. So we'll just kind of set the bar a little bit. All living things want to live their lives in a state of well-being and to be loved. I love this picture. Look at those heads. I mean, their eyeball is as big as my head. These guys are sweet. They look very alien. They look very foreign. They could scare you if you didn't know that they were, giraffes. But they're sweet as they're sweet as a golden retriever. And what I'd want to do today is to extend that to energetic divine beings. They're the same. There are some creepy things here in this earth plane, but when you get out, they're all sweet. It's all love. Okay, so this is from Robert Schwartz. You are not your body. You are not your personality, your thoughts, or your emotions. You are the holy, eternal, courageous soul who bravely planned this lifetime, who bravely planned to leave a realm of love, light, peace, and joy, to come into body to experience challenges so that you can balance karma, heal, be of service to others, experience contrast, and to correct false feelings or belief about the self. You are soul, holy, courageous, multi-dimensional, powerful soul. All of us in this room, this is what we are. We've got these earth suits that we're kind of bumbling around in, but we're way beyond that. The universe communicates with intense light, brilliant colors, and beautiful music. You look at the crown chakra, it's got that beautiful violet color, that purple, and the heart chakra, that green of love. So here's a little home movie, and I hope nobody gets homesick.
Okay.
Just lie down and look up at the sky. That's the best. Look up at the sky and lie down.
Vital energy that pervades everything, is everything. What started for me in Central America and the Amazon as a reality meltdown and confusion ended in the Arctic Circle with a new reality. And yes, it has something to do with the aurora borealis. How mystical and how amazing that really is. By the way, did anybody get the colors of the aurora borealis? Did anyone put it together? What was the universe saying? What was the communication? Okay, love and divine love. That is what those colors are telling you. That's what they're telling me, and that's what it translates to when you start taking all the colors apart over these years. Divine love. It's not just happening up there with whatever happened to me. I see it all the time. It's pouring down around us all the time. You are loved souls, and it's coming in, and all you got to do is pick it up. It has many names: prana, great spirit, ether, love, real, source. If you talk to an Amazon shaman, he will tell you that you come from a place of pure love, of ecstatic joy. It is our energetic home, dimension, boundlessly blissful, divine, and euphoric. This is a friend of mine. He wrote this: there is a dimension that you can't even imagine, beyond imagination, where love is not what you think it is. Love is not a relationship with someone, but a state of being, where there is a possibility to be in no mind, a possibility to have a static, blissful life. Okay, my near-death experience. I was working at Station 11 in 1994, and we went to a severely ill patient. A couple of us got sick from it. A couple of days later, I was severely dehydrated. My blood pressure was failing and stuff like that. Went to the hospital. Some missteps happened, and I was floored. I stayed there overnight, and during that night, at some point, I left my body. It just gave up the ghost. My pressure was 40 over 0 at times. And the week prior to that, something told me, you need to get ready. It wasn't a voice of doom. It was just a slight nudge saying you need to be ready for change. And so I took my nieces out all the time. I loved my dogs up. You know, of course, my wife. I took my wife to dinner and told her I loved her and all that. And then at the end of that week, I went into this event with the hospital. So when I left my body, I found myself flying through a star-filled realm. I was a huge, expanded gas balloon of some sort. And it felt like I'd been released from a hot, dark closet. And there was cool breeze blowing through every atom of my body. And somebody was pouring honey all over my brain, and it was running through my central nervous system. It was the most joyous thing ever. And I know the French call sexual ecstasy, they call it la petite mort, which is the little death. And what I felt, what I experienced with that body separation and that death was 1,000 times better than sex. So the French got it right. So I was flying along, and I was just going, man, what was that? My life. It was like, that was rough. And my life's been blessed. I've had everything I've ever wanted. But it was, to me, I was so happy to be out. And I kept thinking, how did I forget who I really was? How is it possible that I forgot who I really was? I was not Bill Letson. And I did not want anything to do with that banana peel that was on the ground over there, which was my body. I did not want anything to do with that. And so I was flying along, and I was looking at the stars, and I was thinking, man, I'm going to be flying for a while, because it's a vast universe. And the next thing you know, I arrived. I arrived at a place that had solidness. It had indirect lighting. It had equipment there. There was tables, and there were beings there. There were these 3 short little guys, and they were overjoyed to see me. It was pouring out of them. These guys have kind of rough-looking faces here. Their smiles, their faces don't look very joyous, but what they had really was this big, toothy smile. Went from ear to ear. And they were giggling, and they were bouncing around. They were talking to each other like little munchkins. And one of them turned to the other and he said, "He doesn't remember us." And they all giggled. And then they started in. What was it like? What did you learn? How was it? What can you tell us? And I was confused. I knew these were my bros forever, and I knew I was home. But but it was so shocking. And then there was this other guy, and he was kind of in charge, if you could say he was in charge. Those other guys were so mischievous, and he was like this wispy, watery guy. He was taller, and I loved him so much. He came forward, and my chest expanded, and my throat felt like it was a lump the size of Delaware, and my sinuses were burning, and I could barely hold it together. I just felt like I was going to break out crying from love. And I understand women now. I didn't. I did not understand them most of my life. Why are you crying at a wedding or a child graduating? They're crying from love. It's coming out of them. You got it going on. Because you can feel that, and you can process it, and guys can't do that. Those firemen can't do that. So if you look at the little cigarette face in the middle, that's what this guy looked like. That's what his face looked like. He was just exuberant all the time. And if you put that face on the walking stick insect, he was like a walking stick that was underwater. And then he was kind of, he couldn't really get a focus on him. That's what I saw.
So I said, okay. He says, okay, it's time for you to go back. And I turned around. I'm sorry, but he put his arms around me. He put his arms around me. And it was a feeling that I can't explain. It was unconditional love, but it was words. I can't tell you the words. And I'm sorry, but I always act like this because I can feel it again. So,
I love this man. I love this man. I'd like to meet him. He's local.
It changed my life. And the next thing I heard was the nurse was saying, I think he's ready to come out of it. His temperature's at 90 degrees.
His name's Richard. He's a local guy. Maybe somebody knows him.
I've seen him on YouTube.
You see him on YouTube? I love that video. That you could feel that love. It's tangible. And he does that interview. It's about 8 or 9 minutes long, and he holds it together. He's like facts all the way through, and he gets right there, and he loses it. So that's how powerful it is. So yeah, tears of joy. So I'm talking to these guys, and they're I'm still with the 3 little bouncy hooded guys, and then there's the tall wispy guy, and I'm thinking this isn't very organized at all. So I offered up. I said, why don't we go through a review of my life? This is what we're supposed to do, right? And I was fire captain, I followed the rules. And he just chuckled, and he said, sure, we can do that. How do you want to start? And I was like, oh, this is very strange. And so I told a few feeble stories, and what I got from this is there is no, when we go to where we come from, there's no judgment at all. It's humorous. It's light. It was this whole thing, as much as we put on it, how much trouble we have, it's a big joke. It really is. They don't care. Nobody was there to hammer me. I guess we hammer ourselves if we're really bad. So then he said, it's time to go back. And I was like, dude, no way, I'm not going back. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm done. And what else can I do? And the 3 little guys, it's like they were reassigned, and they just like disappeared. And then he started moving forward, and I felt myself moving back, and I'm like, bro, Come on, I made it. I made it home. I don't need to go back there. Did not want any part of that body, that tube. I didn't want to get back in it, and I told them that my wife and my parents, they might be sad for a few weeks, but they'll get over it. And just a hint. If you have that conversation and then you come back and you tell your wife that, it haunts you for years. No, you didn't even want to come back, so you do the dishes. So I came back and I felt myself descend, and then when I got close to my body, I paused in this place that was terrible. It was lonely, it was dark, it was a realm directly next to where we are now. It was, my grandmother would say that we're in hell and we need to find our way out. We need to reconnect. And that was a horrible feeling, and I denied it for a long time. I didn't want to believe that it was there. But it was there, and it scared me, really scared me. I don't think it has anything to do with the universe, but it has something to do with this earth plane gig we're doing. So then I found myself back in my body. I woke up, and there was a nurse there, and I said, I was just with some guys that told me I bought the farm. What am I doing back here? And she said, honey, you were in escrow, but you fell out and you're back with us. And I was really upset. I was pissed for a few days. And I've never been depressed in my life, but I was like, not happy. And so I told my story to the doctor, and he says, you're crazy. And I told the story to my wife, and she says, you're nuts. But she was writing everything down by then. And I told it to a few guys on the department, who had been in, not either of you. But they had approached me quietly, and they wanted to know what I experienced. And I told them, and when I told them about the munchkins and the wispy noodle guy, and they're like, okay, well, we're done. This was not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear robes and horns and beards. And so you, like most of us, you zip it. You just zip it. You know it was real. I zipped it for 15 years. If somebody who had been going through something approached me, I would say, there's nothing to worry about. It's absolute ecstatic joy. We've got it all backwards. So I went home. They discharged me. I went home, and I had this very bizarre hip, spine, tailbone shaking episode a few days later. It lasted several seconds and went away, and it came back a couple times. And I thought, well, a lot happened in the hospital, so it came back a few weeks later, and then it tailed off, and then it was gone. And I figured, well, it's nothing. If I went to, an MD or something, I would have been put on some kind of anti-seizure medicine or something. But yeah, and it was something like that. It was that strong. It lasted several seconds. So what you do with these things, I love this saying, chop wood and carry water. You're here for a reason. They put me back. They actually told me you have things to experience, and they're important. I think we're all experiencing them now. We're at a critical time, and I just been kicking back the last 20 years. It hasn't been any great experiences, but there are going on now. So you get back in your life, and you chop wood, and you carry water. You get up, and you go to work, and you do your life stuff. And that's the best you can do. But I kept an eye out for authenticity in the world. And the religious world has very little. And a lot of people on TV, and anybody who's collecting money, not here though, this is a good thing. But anybody who wants money from you, and start discounting it. But you can, I don't know if anybody's read this book, it's a bestseller, Jill Bolt Taylor. That is authenticity. And if you remember what I said, she said, my energy of my spirit was like a great whale gliding through a sea of silent euphoria. I was like, check, got that one. And she said, I felt like a genie liberated from her bottle. I was liberated from my hot, dark closet. But she's on it. Everything she says is right on. Mary Neal changed my life. She gives such a great interview. When she talks, you know she has everything to lose for what she's saying, and she keeps saying it. And a mother of 4 young children, and a career as a surgeon, and a husband she loved, had no intention of coming back. Instantly. I am not going back there. She was with these beings of light. And Eckhart Tolle, fantastic. He puts it into terms we can live with, silencing your ego and bringing the big love. But the big one for me was Dr. Rick Strassman. And I don't know why I read this. The movie came up on Netflix, and I said, yeah, why not? I'll watch a drug movie. Sure, I'm a fire captain, hang out with cops. I've never watched a drug movie. So I watched this DMT thing, and then I liked him, and a week later, Amazon says, you should buy this book. Sure. Never bought a book that I watched a movie of a week before. But the book came, and it sat around for a week or two, and my wife says, you're going to read that book? You paid good money for it. And so I started reading it, and when I got to chapter 13 and 14, which is called Beyond the Veil, this is where reality started falling apart in 2010. And what he has, I don't know if you guys are aware of him, but he has a bunch of 70 volunteers, New Mexico University, and he induced a death experience with infused DMT, and they left their bodies and they went and saw things that I saw. So the DMT mimics what the pineal gland at the time of death or at soul travel. Soul travel, you get a little bit. At the time of death, it splashes the brain with DMT, and it rockets you out of your body, out of the material world. Dr. Strassman's volunteers were transported to the realm I visited. The descriptions, one after another, kept coming back. They had a space for me. They weren't as surprised as I was. It was incredibly unpsychedelic. I could see detail. There was one main creature, and he seemed to be behind it all. The others were orderlies or disorderlies. They were checking things, testing things, and when I was coming out, I could only think aliens. Somehow we had a mission. We definitely had a mission. They're there to support us in our life. It was not like any UFO abduction I've ever heard. These beings were friendly. Almost a sexual bond, but not sex like intercourse, but total body communication. I was filled with feelings of love for them. Over and over, this is what you hear. So I'm reading this, and I literally dropped the book and gasped. And I'm like, how in the world could these people have my imagination, my dream? Because this is what I was told. How could he have person after person going to where I went? How in the world is this happening? Was all I could think. And after a week, it's a really good thing to put it away and just walk around and let it process with these things. But after a week, I said, I don't think I got this reality thing down right. I think that was the real reality. So I started looking around. And Edgar Cayce, everyone knows who Edgar Cayce is. He's amazing. I think he's probably the most important man who's lived in the last 2,000 years. Just from from everything I've read about him, and he was so giving and selfless. So when he would go into the Akashic Records and bring back information for somebody he was given a reading, and he had millions of followers. He had presidents, kings, millionaires. You're not going to see anything on him on 60 Minutes for some reason, but so one of the things he said when he goes to get the Akashic Records to come back to give a reading, he said, I was outside of my body, and I felt oppressed by darkness, and there was terrific loneliness. And I'm like, okay, there it is, check. And then he said, I was a white beam of light, and I know I must follow it or be lost. As I move along this path, I'm conscious of various levels upon which there is movement. Upon the first level, there are vague, horrible shapes, grotesque forms, such as one sees in nightmares. Some kind of hell beings or something. Some kind of consciousness that's lost its way. I don't know. Again, there's a change, and I become conscious of gray hooded forms moving downward. Okay, I'm listening. And these forms move upward. The color of the robes grow rapidly lighter. So there were those beings that I saw. So I'm involved. I'm reading everything I can from Edgar Cayce, and everything adds up. Terence McKenna referred to them as machine elves that he encountered in his DMT trips. And Michael Talbot wrote extensively about the holographic universe and the elaborate organic simulation that we're all in, kind of an amusement park. And so if you start putting two and two together, okay, we're in some kind of holographic simulation, and you've got these, people that are staffing keeping the thing running. Okay, that's the best I can do. I'm just a fireman. Graham Hancock wrote this book, Supernatural, and he goes back through all kinds of time, and he says we have tons of names for these hooded guys that are bouncing back and forth between our reality and otherworldly. And there's our names: leprechauns, trolls, elves, gnomes. The key is they're mischievous. Every time there's this mischievous side to them that you don't want to turn your back on them. And that's what I felt. I felt I loved them, but don't turn your back on them. So this is Mia. I met her in the Costa Rica jungle, and they call her the Good Witch. And she'll give you talks, and she'll do channeling and stuff. And when I told her I was seeing these beings and I was having a lot of issues with it, she laughed. And she said, there are many, many wonderful beings who are assisting us on our journey. It's all wonderful. And that was a good thing. So about this time, I was traveling to Costa Rica, and I was kind of bumbling around down there. I was looking for, I don't know what. I was looking, with the DMT, I was looking for some kind of legitimate face-to-face DMT experience with a shaman. So I wanted to check them out. I wanted to have authenticity face-to-face instead of, flying down and going with some guy or something. And about this time, there was a major loss. And my dad passed away. He got sick, and he knew he was terminally ill. We didn't know it. He didn't tell us. And he died, and we put him to bed. He goes, I don't want to go. No more medics, no more hospitals. Just put me to bed. I'm cool. I'm good. The bravest man I've ever seen. And I was holding him, and he passed. He died, and I felt euphoric. I felt overwhelmed with joy. It was really weird. And my mom was there, and she was making jokes about, the last time he goofed something up, and he just died. The room was full of good energy. And I went outside. My wife was out in the guest house, and I went outside to tell her the worst words I could have ever imagined saying, which was, my dad just died. And when I said them to her, I almost burst out laughing. I thought I was losing my mind. So she goes, oh my goodness, we have to do something. And she goes in the house. I'm following behind her, giggling, and she's looking at me like, are you crazy? I said, I don't know what's going on. So people in public safety, cops, firemen, ER nurses, lifeguards, they have a different place in society. They're around death a lot. And they're around dead bodies a lot. I did my share in my career. You had to extricate a dead body or get a dead body out of a river or creek or something, or stand by a crime scene, but you sat with dead bodies. And I left something out. My dad started to glow a golden yellow. It was really powerful. All his wrinkles disappeared, and he was glowing. And my mom went over, and she was touching the top of his head. And I didn't know what was going on. I was kind of taken back by that, but I never forgot it. So anyway, yeah, we see lots of dead bodies, and we'd like to forget them because it's a slideshow that is terrifying sometimes. So Rick Strassman's book mentions the Tibetan Book of the Dead several times. So I went and got a copy, and I found these two passages within a few minutes. Closely observe the body of the deceased and seek to determine whether she has attained liberation from rebirth in cyclic existence. If emancipation has occurred, the body will take on a certain glow, and while being in its presence, one will experience sensation of happiness. That's exactly what happened. The relatives, loved ones, and attending lama should refrain from touching the body or only tap the crown fontanelle to induce the consciousness to leave. So I went and I read this to my mom, and I said, okay, several weeks ago, you were touching Dad's head right after he passed. And she said, I think about that every day. She said, it wasn't my idea. Something told me to go over there and touch his head. So what I think is that when you lose somebody you love, that you are connected to your whole life, you've never argued with, you never deserted them, never gave up on them, when you have that and they leave, I think that there's a door or an energy field that's open for a loving adjustment period. It happened with my dad, and my mom started having these 3 loud bangs, bang, 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 on the house. We installed cameras to tell her nobody's in the room, nobody's outside, and then I started having it. But I would wake up, and 2 bangs into it, I'd wake up, and the last bang or 2 was right here, boom. It was DMT in the pineal gland. That was, you become more aware of the third eye opening during normal soul travel and the action of the pineal gland. Or it becomes stronger or something. If you Google this, you'll come up with things about alien abductions and the Grim Reaper. So there's a short little video, and this guy's name is Jonas Elrod, and he lost his best friend. And then he started having experiences. And it's a great video, and here we go.
Are you nervous talking about this stuff?
A little bit.
Why?
Self-conscious.
Why?
I don't want people to think I'm a freak.
Why would they think you're a freak?
Because this scares people. My name is Jonas Elrod. I was born 37 years ago in a small God-fearing town out of Georgia. One day, out of nowhere, something very strange happened to me.
Doesn't sound like schizophrenia. He doesn't have a mood disorder.
We've excluded potential causes of abnormalities such as a brain tumor.
Overnight, I started to see things that most people couldn't see. Angels and spirits and demons. I could see it everywhere. And I'm trying to find out why this happened to me.
He's asked me not to talk to anyone about this.
I mean, it's sensory overload, essentially, is what it is at times. This gift, this curse, this gift curse.
Why was he just one average Joe guy one day, and then all of a sudden he sees things?
I do think this was a wake-up call for me to get more on a spiritual path. I mean, I've always wanted to understand why I'm here, who am I, what does all this mean?
And where do you want to take that experience within yourself?
Well, I'm all about spiritual growth and transformation.
Yeah, that's a nice saying. But what does it mean to you?
You call me out on that?
We've got a database of thousands of these kinds of experiences.
70% of the people in this country believe in the extraordinary.
You're not going to figure this out by intellectually thinking about it.
I guess the only thing that is important that you don't think that I'm crazy.
Why would I be sitting here with you today if I thought you were crazy?
What is awoken in you is not a passing phase. And you make a commitment to it. So at least we can say, I said yes to the mystery of life.
You can't change the world. It's too big. what you do is you change your life.
It's not really about searching outside. Really, it's all inside of you.
This thing has made me brave. It's made me fearless at times because I know it never ends. There is more out there, and there's a bigger picture. The stuff I see is just as real as me looking at you holding that camera.
We're going to go into some entities that are traditionally scary due to the programming in the movies and stuff, but my experience was they weren't scary at all. They were very loving, and I liked being around them. So just think of the two golden retrievers there, and think how much love and how sweet you feel towards them, and if you can, transfer that into the guys coming up. In Jonas Elrod's documentary, Wake Up, I really enjoyed, he goes to Italy, and he's with a spirit expert. He has this technology of capturing digital images using temperature and stuff, and that is what he captures. And it's sitting right in front of Jonas, and it's just looking at him. And sometimes Jonas can see him, and sometimes he can't, but the image picked it up. He's following him around. I followed him to Italy, and so this guy on the right here, this is a guy that I see often. And look at the similarities. They even have the little forehead cowlick thing. They both have it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Around this time, after my dad passed away, I was going to Costa Rica and I was doing things, and I started having this thing where my whole life I've had this a few times a year where I'm on a surfboard or I'm in a convertible or something, and I get pulled out of it and I go up. I go up, 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 and mostly it's the surfboard. And so I started having this where here comes a swell, I'm on my surfboard, everything's groovy, and then my surfboard won't float and the swell comes over and I'm struggling and I have to let go of the surfboard and go up with the energy of the swell. Now that I had this open door with my dad's recent passing, I started to see where I was going when I was going up. So just remember, they're all these beings are cool, but they're scary. Okay, this is what I was seeing. I would be back in that lab that I was at, my near-death experience, and these guys would be around me. They were always sweet. They were always kind. I had asked them about what they were doing to show me some equipment. They always would. Okay, in our culture, this is a weird alien abduction horror story, but minus the horror part, because these guys are friendly. They love you. They're taking care of you. They're fixing you. You're going home to some checkup station, and they're correcting things. In Straussman's book, his volunteers said the same thing. The scene shifts to an alien realm. They find themselves in a landing bay or a high-tech room. The intelligent beings of the other world are interested in their arrival and getting to work. The emotional quality of the relationship is loving, caring, professionally detached. Their business is testing, examining, modifying the volunteer's mind or body. I think we're all going back. Sometimes we get a look at it, but I think we're all going back all the time. Everyone in this room is on a mission that is vitally important to your soul. I know that sounds crazy, but this is what I think. Okay, so I got involved with some incredible shamans down in Costa Rica. This is Taita Juanito. He's a tiger shaman. And that means if you go to a healing ceremony with him, you're going to get your butt kicked. He's the sweetest guy in the world, but he knows that human beings need to get that left side of their brain, that ego, it needs to take a vacation and let yourself connect with the divine to fix your problems. And he'll get you there. At the end of the ceremony, after like 6 months of this, at the end of the ceremony, the sun was coming up, the music was playing, everybody's like really happy to be done with it. And he said, we should all celebrate in our efforts to assist the sky surgeons from the other side in caring for our earthly body and our soul's journey with the use of the sacred medicine, and to know that the surgeons are pleased. This is a man who's never had a pair of shoes in his life. He lives in the jungle and sleeps in a hammock. And he's telling us about the sky surgeons. I was like, I will do anything you tell me to do, Taita. Oh, I think there was something about a movie. I took it out. So I became a seeker in Guanacaste, in Wes's neighborhood down there, Nasara, and I spent most of my time at this place called Pachamama, where it's a group that lives out in the woods. It's like a village of like 300 people, bohemians, considered crazy by their cultures, and they have a wonderful life. I got involved in a lot of things. My plan was to invest in a retreat where people could go and get back to being a human being, turn off some of the Wi-Fi and stuff, and eat good food and work out and sit quietly and calm themselves down. So plant medicine stuff, I got involved with Leonardo and Juanito there, just to sort of soften this. Plant herbs have been labeled medicine for eons. Naturopath doctors use them, and some of these plants have psychotropic qualities. Plants like coffee, tobacco, cannabis are well known. Ayahuasca is a mixture of two plants cooked in a brew, gives you profound psychotropic effects with strong spiritual implications. A special medicine man is called a shaman today. So if you go to a plant medicine ceremony, this was at the Nasara retreat. They have a pavilion out in the jungle, and you show up about 5:30 or 6. You set up your stuff. You see the little buckets there. Those are to throw up. When you drink ayahuasca, you purge or you vomit just before the party starts. And the shamans show up about 9. You drink around 10, and around 11, things start getting a little crazy. The evening will result in 4 things. Nothing. You sit there all night and nothing happens. The grids. You will see the reality you live in as a generated illusion of purposeful created interlocking grids of form. That's a hologram. And you'll see those. That's one of the options. The movie. You have visions and you play in a film, or you participate as a complete observer. And then there's the pit. In the pit, you go directly to hell. I chose door number 4. Or the spirits chose door number 4. And it's the best thing that can ever happen to you. I know it's a few hours of complete terror. But so here's my disclaimer. Going from a few beers a year to the strongest psychoactive plant medicine in the world is a really special kind of stupid. It really is. I waltzed in there thinking I knew what I was doing, and it was going to be on my terms, and it's not. This left brain me, is tied and gagged and thrown in the trunk, and the divine me starts driving, and you're kicking and screaming back there, and the more you kick and scream, the more you suffer. And
What's a Goomba?
A Goomba? That's like a goofball. I managed to make some screw-ups now and again. And this was a big one. This was a big screw-up. But like I said, I was supposed to do this. This was the other side saying, wake up. You've wasted the last 15 years since your near-death experience. You're behind the curve, so you're going to have to do some extra credit. I became a drooling, moaning sow of a man for hours. trying to remember how to blink and breathe, trapped in a hell of incredible fear, guilt, shame, and anxiety. It was paralyzing and poured over me like black oil. Anybody want to go on the next one? It was the most horrible and amazing experience anyone can ever have. And at one point, one of the shamans, they would take you aside and they would whip you with things and spit on you and slap you to distract the pain, I guess, the agony that you were creating in your own head. This was all an illusion. But at one point he said, you're going to have to find the courage to surrender to the softer voice. Go to the divine voice and forget about yourself, which means death. You're walking away from Bill Letson. It is done. You're going to leave him. And when I did that, within 15 or 20 minutes, it was blissful, absolutely blissful. So when I drank, you had that hour, and then I was sitting there, looking at the ceiling in my arrogant former self, thinking that's not going to happen to me. I'm too tough. It's going to happen to all these other pansies. And the spiral opened on the pavilion ceiling, just opened into this spiral, and there was light streaming through it. There was light streaming through it over and over. It was like a tangerine light and a pink light, and it was mesmerizing. And you couldn't look away from it. It was a download, is what it was. And that was cool. I passed out or something. And I woke up over my bucket, and a roaring discharge of mostly air combined with a large, bluish-black, worm-like thing, size of a small loaf of bread, came out of me somehow and undulated across the floor, bubbled and oozed across the pavilion floor. I mean, it was a roaring vomit. It was like, wah! And I'm like, what is going on? It was like a jet engine. And this came out of me. And I looked around at my friends, and I said, I think my language is stronger than this, but I said, what is happening? And it looked like it was liquid vapor or smoke or something. This was the craziest moment I've ever known, to have this thing come out and start moving across the floor. Later, I was told it was an energy entity. A year later, I was told. An energetic, emotional entity. So, from Terence McKenna's book, True Hallucinations, he says in Ecuador, the shamans there, when they take ayahuasca, they see a violet or deep blue, just able to see a substance that is violet or deep blue that bubbles like a liquid. When you vomit from taking ayahuasca, the violet fluid comes out of your body. The shamans, Ecuador shamans, they collect the stuff, it's magic to them, and they spread it out on the ground in front of them and look at the material and see other times and places. The nature of this fluid is completely outside of ordinary experience. It's made out of space-time or mind. Okay, so I know this is really strange to hear. So when you go back to Edgar Cayce, he says all the time that thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. In the energetic realm that we come from, thoughts are things, and you have to be careful with them. Thoughts can be hang-ups, emotional baggage, fear, guilt, shame, and they're entities. So the more you read, this earthly visit is mostly about emotions and relationships and intentions. And if you spend a lot of time in the lower half of that thing there with the alpha point and all that, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get those, if you live a life full of anger and pride and guilt and shame, we all know these people. This is what you're creating. And these things are persistent. They're staying with you. But if you go up to the ultimate conscious peace, love, you're connecting with your true home. This is nice. Abraham Hicks has a daily quote by email, and they can keep me online with staying in the upper things. Every single day, their quotes are good. This came up just the other day. A belief is nothing more than a chronic pattern of thought, and you have the ability, if you try even a little, to begin a new pattern, to tell a new story, get a different vibration, and change your point of attraction. The law of attraction is responding to your vibration, and you can always change your vibration. So I was down there, and things were happening, and I started having energy coming up my arms, really strong, like sticking my fingers into light sockets. And I was wondering about that, and I submitted to the Pachamama. I stayed there for months, and they're not going to teach you anything, but they're going to put you in a position to where you're going to experience things, and you're going to learn. You're going to figure out what's going on with you. It's a wonderful community. It's just up from Nasara. They do a thing where they have lots of silence. Sometimes they go into silence for a week or two, and every day for an hour and a half. It's really helpful. So what they'll do is they'll give you the keys, they'll show you the door, but you have to go through yourself. And that's something about life, I think. When it's time to die, you may have your whole family around you and stuff, but you're going on that journey by yourself. And that's not a scary thing. It's a wonderful thing. But you have to climb that mountain on your own. When your thoughts and intentions routinely match the highest frequency, you begin to awaken. In the Jed McKenna's book, The Spiritual Enlightenment, the damnedest thing, awakening is when you start to deprogram. Enlightenment is when you're in an unprogrammed state. So what's the program? The program is that we're dropping into these bodies over and over and countless times, and we're learning from our lives. When you can see into that, you're starting to work your way out of here. And along with awakening, there's a Kundalini. Kundalini is a mystical experience where the seed, spark, God energy, which lies dormant within all of us, awakens and begins the process of spiritual growth. It starts in the root chakra, and it goes up through the chakras over weeks, months, years, and then you have this experience where you connect with the divine out the crown chakra. It's a direct physical thing. It's not an idea or a metaphor or anything like that. It's real. And it's the Holy Spirit stepping into the physical you, the material now, and making a better version of you. It's the universal path of all human beings, regardless of... So here's another scary thing that happened. This was all over a course of about 5 years. When an individual becomes attuned to the spiritual reality around us due to an awakening or altered state, perceptions of the previously invisible now become possible. When I came back from Costa Rica one time, I spent about a week. Every time I went to bed, I had these things sitting on me, holding me down. Sleep paralysis, you've heard of these things? And it was very scary. I was having a lot of trouble with it. And I sat on the edge of my bed once, and I talked to those mischievous little elves. And I said, guys, I'm kind of out of options here. Can you help out? It's a prayer, is what it was, but it was just a normal thing. And I went to sleep, and I woke up, and there was a blue light on in the room. I didn't know what that was doing there. It had 8 points to it. Those guys were all sitting on me. And I looked at the blue light. Something told me. I tried to sit up. Again, I couldn't. Sleep paralysis, I don't know. But something said, oh, hell no. And I sat up really forcefully and cleared the room. And they ran like cockroaches. And what I said wasn't it wasn't out of a threat of violence. It wasn't anger. It was just a really strong intention. You can put an intention out there. It doesn't have to have some emotion attached to it. We're that powerful. And that whole thing ended. That ended, and it was really upsetting me. I was afraid to go to sleep at night. It ended with one discount fear. I'm not doing this. So this comes into this left-right brain thing, and I'm noticing the ayahuasca ceremony and the sleep paralysis thing. This was all left brain, fear-based stuff. So I started thinking, the neurons that fire together, wire together. So I'm going to go over to that right brain, and I'm going to hang out in love. I'm going to do a lot of right brain time. Here's just a quick tidbit. Edgar Cayce on Satan. It says, our minds are led by the spirit we entertain, the spirit of God or the spirit of the devil which is self. The devil equals self. The devil is the spirit of selfishness, is what he writes over and over. He says it's not a personality or a deity. It's the force of selfishness. To act selfishly is to surrender to the will of the beast. That is the body that you're having an earthly experience in. And that's the whole thing with the beast and the devil. And what I believe this, that there is no Satan. Oh, and another thing that this came from Tesla, and he said that crystals are a living being. We can't really understand it, but crystals are a living being. And the crystals that are ruining our world, their frequency is extremely low. I think we all have some of this in our family. We've got, I know I do, I've got a sister and a niece that are lost, and that low frequency, you're ingesting it or smoking it or whatever, and that low frequency takes over your life. It's down there at the bottom, and you wonder where that loving person went. And anyway, that's just a thing. So I went looking for some serious right brain time. And you say daydreaming's good, writing, shamanic breath work, floating, running. Many shamans are long-distance runners. And hypnotherapy, I went to Peter Wright, and he did some wonderful things. I recommend him highly. It's real. And I think it all had to do with, these things that glom onto us. These entities, they're real. I know it's hard to believe, but they're real, and Peter kindly sends them into the light. An ayahuasca ceremony is kind of a forceful vomiting, but there's all these ways to purge these things. If you float over and over, you have that right brain time, that divine time will come in and change your life. So I hit a tipping point, and like I told you, it's going to go weird, and it's going to go weirder. So as I started doing all this right brain time, the fear was going away, and so things started getting mysterious. And Albert Einstein said, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. When I was in Pachamama, in one day, I started to see auras on my friends. And it was all about their emotion or their mood. If you were really appreciative and grateful, and you expressed it with love, your aura exploded skyward. It was the most amazing thing to see. And then as night came, I could see these outlines, these light bodies around everyone. And the crew I was with, they were all cleaning something up, and the dark sky was behind them, and they were working so hard. And it was so funny. I was thinking, they are trying so hard to find what they already are. And that's what we all are. We have this light body, this soul. I started seeing energy in the sky. And it would explode up the sides of the meditation hall. It would go up in like a 5 or 6 second cycle. And at first it was miraculous, but a week later it was like routine. I think this is around us all the time. We're living in this energy, and we can see it if we just, I don't know, get connected with that right brain. Van Gogh was considered a psychotic, and he died in his 30s. But I don't think he was psychotic at all. He was seeing the same things I was seeing, the sky with the swirls and the colors in it. The divine energy that we started talking about earlier, the prana, the source, love, I believe that it fuels the simulator, and it's around us all the time. Fuels the holographic universe. As you see this Tom Petty video, you can see the swirling clouds and stuff, and he's looking up at the sky, and then there's something behind that in the video. And I just saw this the other day, so I put it in here. But if you spend time watching the energy on your ceiling or on the walls and stuff, within time, there's things behind it. I know this sounds crazy, but it's very Aztec and Mayan. Sometimes it's beings. They're sitting there looking at you, and it's in this video. It's very strange. There's the swirling, and then there's beings behind there, and the eyes are the windows to the soul. This is another thing that happened. We are connected at the deep. So there's this thing called eye gazing. My friends and I got into this eye gazing. I see people nodding their heads. This is very powerful. It sounds crazy, but you just sit with somebody in low light and you get eye on eye. And it may take a couple of nights, but some crazy things happen. One thing that started happening for me was the person I was looking at, their face pieces of it started to move around. I'm seeing heads nod. This is good. It makes me feel better. You see pieces of their face move around. And then, I'm talking to my friend and I'm like, dude, what I am seeing is impossible. And he's like, well, what are you seeing? And I told him, and he goes, well, that's impossible. But there it was. And then eventually it starts switching to full faces. And the face hangs around for a couple seconds, and then another face. When we get to the question, all these nodding people, I wanted to hear from you. Because this is really an amazing thing to see. Your reality is dissolving. You're looking, and I know what I was looking at. I'm looking at the previous lives etched on the soul of that person. There was one girl that we moved in the dark, and her face started changing immediately, and I didn't know who it was. And she had all these powerful faces. She had like pirates and Indian chiefs and Navy SEALs, and this is just this little woman. And I guess I was going like this, and she's going, dude, what are you seeing? And I think I told her. And she moved in really close, and she goes, you listen to me. We're getting together after this, and you're going to tell me what you're seeing. And I'm like, it's no argument. And I never met up with her, though. I couldn't put a face to her. I could put a few dozen faces of very tough people, but I didn't see any gladiators around the lunch line or anything, so it wasn't her. I never found her. So eye gazing is very powerful, and it's just there's nothing to it. There's not sacred medicine or anything. So I went home. I'm almost wrapping up here. I went home and I told my wife all these things that opened up in like 36 hours. Impossible things had happened. And, before I went home, I laid down in my bunk, still in Costa Rica. This is the last one. And I laid down in my bunk, and I'm looking up at the stars, and I said to the divine, to the creators, I said, guys, my schedule is now wide open. Whatever you want from me, I'll do it. My calendar is clear. And I am so grateful for everything I've seen, and now that I know that this, the reality of our existence is so profound. And as I laid there looking at the stars, one star got my attention, a tangerine star. And it started twinkling really strongly, and I felt something here, and it was really strong. And I looked at the sky, and I said, now what? And the star opened up, and what was inside that star was that. White energy. It looked like a bird flapping all its wings, like a white dove flapping all its wings. And I looked at that for like a minute, and it was something was going through me, and it was really cool. And after that, I was like, okay. That's what I saw. Speed it up a little faster than that, but that's what I saw. And later, I came across this. You can see the dove above, the snake below, the Kundalini rising, and then there's some sort of thing. Goes, these paintings go back throughout the history of man. So I had the Kundalini rising, I had I think I didn't tell you guys, but I had a few more of the spine-shaking incidents that were ridiculous. I was banging on the wood floor out of control, and I thought for sure I'd screwed up. Now I've got some seizure disorder because of my reckless behavior, but it never was. It cleared up, and a couple of times it came and went, and anyway, this is really profound. So on the left there at the top, those are known stars, and on the right there are orbs that you manifest orbs. We know about this, right? You go out and create this emotion of appreciation and love, and just get it to a peak and take a picture. Go out in the woods, go out in nature, and you can take pictures all night long and nothing. Maybe you'll see a little something here and there, but as soon as you generate that big one, boom, there's orbs all over. And what they say is those are emanations from spirits. So those orbs look like those known stars. These are amateur pictures of the stars because the observatories, they're not taking pictures of stars. At least we're getting different pictures than these. And so I sat down we have a little lake in our backyard. I sat down by that lake, and I thought about all the kids that grew up on that lake, and the dogs and the camping, and how much, we had barbecues and bands, and how much joy and love was coming into that spot. And I took a picture. And that blew my mind. Because I took like 5 pictures before, and none of them, they were all just, a tree in the dark. And that is how powerful our intentions or our emotions are. Anytime anybody wants to try this or experience it, I'm available. I'll go too. Because it's cool. It's very cool. So I sleep out on the deck now. And I like that little things. Perhaps they're not stars, but rather openings, and our loved ones shine down to let us know they're happy. There's something really cool going on with stars. I know, I'm a madman, but it's true. Okay, so we can go back to that. So I went home and told my wife all these incredible things that happened. And I told my whole story, and she looked at me and she says, "You're crazy." And I go, that's it? She goes, yeah, you're crazy. Why don't you do the dishes? And I'm like, okay, I'll do the dishes. And so I was telling her, I can see this stuff on the walls now. It's rolling. And she goes, yeah, whatever. And a few days later, I woke up and I said, aurora borealis. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And I sat on the edge of the bed and I said it again. It's not something I cooked up. It's something that came up. And so I went to her and I said, what do you know about aurora borealis? She goes, oh, I love aurora. That's something I want to do. And I said, okay, let's go. So we went to Yellowknife, Canada, and it was 40 below, and it was cool. You rent your Arctic gear, and you're never cold. Well, I went up there with a bunch of stuff, like Levi's and sweatpants and stuff. It does not work. You get half a block and your skin is burning and you run back to the hotel. So you get the Arctic gear. And so we flew up there and we got on dog sleds, and that's my wife at 2 a.m. with her dog sled, 30 below, 2 a.m. That is a warrior woman there. And we chased the aurora. And so you want to go when it's cold, super cold. You want to go when it's super clear. And you want to go when the sunspots are kicking. They're going off. That's called the Carrington rotation. And you want to get a 4, 5, or 6 value. And then, you got to just be ready to go, because it's all going to line up quickly in a couple of weeks. So that's what we did. And we got underneath that aurora, and it poured down on us. It poured down on us, and it poured through us. And it's the most remarkable thing. I could talk about it all night. But here's what we got off by ourselves. We had this Eskimo kid, this Inuit kid, who said, all right, here's what you do. Yeah, do this, follow me. And they got us off in the woods by ourselves. And we laid down in the snow. And this is what we saw. This went on for hours. Pardon me? That's real time. So there it is again, divine love in the communication medium of the universe. Colors, beautiful colors and light. This is a video off the YouTube, and it was I cut the piece that looked like what we went through. So this isn't actually our video, and you don't want to be messing around with the camera up there. You just go experience it, because you're not going to be able to hit it. There's lots of film around. Just, you know what I mean? Just let go into it. But what we saw from horizon to horizon, this came down for a couple of hours. And so at one point I looked over at my wife. She's laying on her back. And this is a woman who's called me crazy forever. And she had tears running down her cheeks. And she looked at me and she's like, goes like this. She's like, what? For one moment in time, I wasn't crazy. And I love that moment. And we talk about it. It was December we went. We talk about it almost every day. She's like, what was that? So what that was, I'm convinced, is a visual representation of prana, of orgone, of God, of love. The Northern Lights is a physical and visual light manifestation of the magical cosmic energy that pervades all of the earth. It powered the earth plane forever. It's generated by a magnetic North Pole where magnetism becomes overinfused with electrical influence. The spillover illuminates the sky with a visual version of this energy. I see it because something happened to me, but that's a visual version of what I see. It's an exact replica. So if anybody wants to go see that, I'm in. I'll go with you. I'm no trouble. My wife will go too. This electromagnetism is termed biomagnetism. And all these guys lined up, Tesla, Wilhelm Reich, Casey, they all said the same thing, that it's a biomagnetism, and due to its properties of feeling our subconscious and delivering the manifestation of our minds. It can be used for good or evil based on the intent of our minds. The human mind's thoughts are read by this energy and manifested into the hologram reality that we're bumbling around in for us to navigate. Our thoughts power this life force energy. This is why thoughts are so important. They are in control of everything through this energy. Okay, this is it. I'm done. I wrote this, and you guys can read it if you want. But that's something that's in my book. Do I need to go back? All right, I'll read it to you, so we all go at the same speed. The truth is, we are all timeless, eternal, loving, compassionate, powerful, spiritual beings. We are traveling through a limitless universe. We have helpers, guides, angels around us always. They care deeply for us and help when needed. We're never alone, forgotten, and vulnerable like we sometimes believe. You are incredibly more than you think you are, and your life is not your own. It's not yours alone. Your guides speak to you often, and you hear them through your intuition, through your subconscious. You are being led through lifetimes of discovery, enlightenment, and soul growth. You won't die in this life until the second you are that is your scripted time, a time you chose before you were born. And that death is really something to rejoice in. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Make time for silence in nature, and with a quiet mind, allow you to tune into your true home frequency and go with the universal flow. We all have this ability. It's who we truly are. It's who we've always been. Okay, so to sum up, we accomplished quite a bit. We answered the two biggest questions, the only questions really that matter, and they are, who are we? And why are we here? We're eternal spiritual beings, and we're here to learn through experience and to awaken to that divine mind. I think we're here to learn to play well with others. Go out. We reverse the widely held view of death. No matter what how grisly it appears to us here, you don't care, and you don't want to go back into that body. As far as this is my experience, there may be other things going on where people are attached to loved ones and stuff, but death is not something horrible and something to be afraid of. It's an incredible miracle. We've made friends with the horrifying aliens that are throughout our movie world, confirmed the continuation of us as a thought form, and brought the magical and mystical back into the world, if only for tonight. And thank you, Santa Barbara IANDS, for your wonderful, fearless spiritual guidance, because I never would have got to where I am if I didn't come in here with my tail between my legs, and all you wonderful people didn't throw me out in the street. So, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. That's very nice. I thought I was boring you guys for a while there.
We're going to have questions and answers. So if you raise your hand, I'll bring you the microphone, and then you get to ask a question. Come on up here, Bill, and then you want to walk with me, and then you can just talk with the people as you go along. So questions. Melita?
I have a quick one.
For a period of, this is about maybe 10 years ago or more, I had 3 dreams, and in those dreams, 3 times I was waking up because of loud booms. But they were so loud they were in my brain. And I woke up, maybe, do you have a feeling on that?
Yes, that's soul travel. That's the pineal gland. That's the DMT being released, splashing your brain. And it was a strong period. It was 3 days in a row.
Not 3 days in a row, but 3 times very close together.
And
it was, I mean, it felt like somebody that just got a hammer in my head and woke me up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's soul travel. That's the pineal gland. That's you leaving your body.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to Santa Barbara. My question is, what was it that the guy had where you guys all got, it's contagious apparently, right? Or what was that you got from that guy?
Oh, when I was, I'm already mic'd up.
Oh, that's right.
When I was a fireman,
yes.
I got sick. It was a woman, and she'd been in bed for a few days, and it was 1994. It was like a big flu thing, and the ERs were flooded. And yeah, I got sick at work, and it was really bad 2 days later. I remember I was looking in the mirror, and I just looked really hollow, and I tried to say something, and it was just a whisper, and I didn't have a radial pulse. So that means I was like below 90, and paramedic here, below 90, below 80, and that's when I got scared, and the county came. Paul Christensen rode in the ambulance and went to Santa Maria Hospital.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Bill, you thought about giving this lecture to the rookie classes and giving them this information?
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
we're big into fire.
I was afraid there was going to be some fire guys here saying, "Dude, stop talking."
I've known Bill for 35 years now. We met on the beach in Costa Rica after I retired. I saw this stranger walking down the beach near my house, and Sarah and I went, "Wait a minute, let's get you out of the hotel, and what are you up to?" But what you shared tonight, where it ties together so many strings in my life. I learned Transcendental Meditation in 1965 on the UCSB campus from Maharishi himself, and you tie a lot of strings together.
It's because of her. Really, I mean, she stands up at these meetings and she just boldly says, I was out of my body, it was so much fun. And I'm like, I should do that because it's helping people.
It's planting seeds. It's letting people, I can't even tell you how many people contact me. I'm retired from UCSB, and I was Businesswoman of the Year for Santa Barbara. I used to own a store downtown. And, I would have never asked for this to happen in my life. And certainly my wonderful husband, who worked 37 years at UCSB, wave your hand, Victor, he probably was like, what the heck is going on? But, it's an amazing change to understanding how the world works. It doesn't mean necessarily that we're perfect in any way. We still are, I'm like still cussing at the person out on the freeway that, I'm wishing that I had my little Rockapelli, that little video, that little CD out there and sometimes, but it's amazing how deeper we can find who we are and how much we can understand the world better by having the near-death experience. And then it doesn't just happen all overnight. It doesn't happen with the NDE. It's all of this stuff that comes assimilating into our system as we're ready and capable of handling it. It wasn't, I didn't have it for 13 years. I kept it completely away from myself for 13 years. But then when it was the right time for it to unfold, boy, I can't even tell you, just like you had it unfold with you, it's just an amazing process as it unfolds. And so I feel that this group and all of the IANDS groups are planting seeds with people, because the video that was done on my documentary is, I think it's almost close to 200,000 views now, but people from all over I'm so open because I have my telephone number out there and I have my email out there. So I'll get these emails and phone calls and stuff, and I really realize how I'm helping people. One of them is here tonight that came tonight for her first time. And you know, a loss in your life, like a death of a loved one, is a big problem for you. And unless you understand that it's just a transition over to another location and that they want you to continue living your life with as much joy and helping and love as you can and giving to others, and it totally makes you feel so much more whole and alive than you ever felt when you were keeping yourself closed and not giving out. So I would totally ask all of you to understand that in your life, that you're not here just to earn money and get your big car and your big house and whatever, you know. That's not what we're here for. It's just really, even just touching someone else's life in some small way, opening yourself to helping someone else. Those are what that's what we're here for. And we learn from them as much as we give to them, and they learn from us as much as we give to them. So it's an amazing thing if we only do that. But we don't get taught to do that.
But the consciousness is exploding right now.
It is.
The new interpretations of the Book of Thomas that are on videos now, you can see, telling us how much power we have, telling us what Christ was really saying, telling us stuff that was edited from the Bible in 321 AD by Constantine, to keep us from understanding how beautiful we all are.
That's right.
Living in this realm that Bill's
Absolutely.
talking about, that he's become so familiar with. It's exploding now, and it's beautiful. And it's really neat. I've never known this group until this evening. So I'll be back.
Yeah, this is a group. And it's not me, it's the group. It's this, literally, these are all wonderful people, every single one of them. And I wish that we could actually just like stay here for a whole week and love each other and like spend, but you know, it's only once a month. And so exchange telephone numbers and meet and have lunch with people, because you will find there are so many people to adopt into your life here that you will not believe how beautiful that your life will become because you connect with these people who also understand. So you see somebody with a beautiful smile, exchange a number and meet them for lunch, because there's conversations to be had.
Out on the bluffs by my house, out there in the Sperling Preserve.
Yeah.
I go out there at night sometimes to watch the sunrise with my dogs or with a friend, and but then I go out sometimes just in the middle of the night. I mean, the shooting stars.
Yeah.
And how the universe talks to you when it's quiet. We ought
Yeah.
to do that sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yep.
Bill, thank you so much. The fire department is a very sort of conventional job, and I've been overwhelmed coming away from when I just retired a couple of weeks ago. That the whole thing was a spiritual experience. The whole thing was just incredible. And I really felt like almost, I'd be scared, you know, I'm like a freak, you know, but not anymore. Not anymore.
You're getting right in here, we understand.
This guy's become a butterfly.
Anything I might have to say about it, you know, I'll think of you.
Barbara did it. Barbara called me and she said, I put you on for speaking, you know, in August or something, like last year. And I'm like, what?
He wasn't quite ready.
I'm nobody.
Well, jobs like the firehouse force us to be cocoons, but Bill found how to be a butterfly.
And also to be tough guys that don't show your sensitivity. Exactly. Yeah.
And you stay inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pamela Osley, let's take the microphone. Well, she has a question first. Okay, go ahead.
I really want to thank you. It was like transcendental being here. It just absolutely was. And
That's great.
I was traveling in England about 15 years ago with my then husband, and he became very, very ill, and nobody knew what it was. He ultimately lost his sense of smell for the rest of his life from it. But that night when I fell asleep, those beings came to me, and they were healing, and we were in beds, like on gurneys, and they were working on me and him, and I woke up terrified, I have to say. Like, it was such love there, but when I came back and I didn't know where I was, and I was in this dark room in this house that I didn't know in England, and it was very dark. It was out in the Cotswolds, so it wasn't in a city, and I didn't know who to talk to about it, and it took me years to even mention it to anyone, and the only people I've ever known that have experienced it have been in books I've read. So thank you for being a human
Thank
that had
you.
the courage to step forward and tell your story, because it just was like, wow, thank you.
Thank you. You just stepped forward and told your story.
Exactly. Yeah,
That was
to touch
cool.
lives. Pamela.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably don't need this. I can talk really loudly. So with the insights you've got and also the statement you just made that consciousness is exploding, with all the chaos we're seeing out there and the fires and the mudslides and the divisiveness, are we waking up? Is this part of the waking up, or have we slid backwards? Is there resistance? What's going on?
Well, like you experienced, Bill, with the ayahuasca, in Book of Thomas, they say once you start to really open up, there'll be some discomfort, and maybe we're going through that as a planet, because there is a lot of turmoil.
And how much love was also administered with the fire and the mudslide of the people who weren't affected, who came forward to love on the people that were affected.
So are we waking up?
Yeah, I think there's,
Are we
you
waking
know.
up? Is that what's happening?
That's what it feels like to me.
The veil is thinning.
Yeah, the veil is thinning. Yeah. I think
So yeah, I didn't think that you guys wanted to hear this, so I skipped this slide, but I don't know if it can go backwards. Well, anyway, there was a slide there, and it had a lot of stuff on it, and I thought, I'm losing them as it is. But I was really surprised you guys were so grateful, because I thought I was boring you. But there was a thing up there, a picture, and it showed about the precession of the equinox. Have you heard of this? The 24,000-year cycle of good and bad. And humans have been, I think this has been going on for tens of millions of years. I think most of our history is some kind of a story. I think we've been here. And so 2012, we were told, was this catastrophic event. Everything's going to go horrible. But what that book that was up there said was 2012 was an awakening. And we had hit rock bottom. Everybody who's alive on the earth today, they came for this. This is, if you're in the firehouse, this is known as the big one. And you came here to go through this awakening. And when I was down in Costa Rica in 2010 at this Pachamama, and it was, people were there and stuff, but by 2013, they didn't have an open bed. They're building new, and these kids are coming from all over the world, walking up that mud trail up from the beach to this village, saying, I don't know why, but I'm supposed to come here. This is an awakening. And 2012, we started back up. And all these lights are going on all over the world, especially in the US. This is what everyone's saying. So yeah, it's an awakening.
Absolutely. I thought she has the mic over here.
Hi.
Hi.
This is projecting. I was curious to come, and you confirmed everything I was anticipating. But I've been going to UFO conferences for about the last 10 years, discovering things. And first it started with the ships and the lights in the sky. You get excited, and then little by little it turns into who's in there and why are they here and who are we and what is the universe. And with the Greys and the Mantis, I think, who are supposed to be very loving and caring.
Yes.
And the Blue Avian, the one drawing you had, that he's
Yes.
been called a Blue Avian, and supposedly they were watching over us, and now they're saying we're on our own, we've matured enough that we can go. And then last weekend I was in Shasta, Mount Shasta conference, from Venus with Love, and Pachamama came up quite a bit, the whole thing about love. And I met Don Tony. I don't know if he's one of their original engineering and energy geniuses. He met Tesla, worked with a lot of things, but he was at our B&B, so we met him at breakfast. His message was silence. He said, breathe in, hold your breath, and then that's when you expand and, let it out. I don't really have a question other than confirmation of what you're seeing and what all that, but I wondered, because so often I read that people who do have contact hear about the Supreme Being or the Creator or the Force or whatever. I mean, you just talked about what you saw and whom you met, but did you ever get any inference of what was beyond that, or what it?
I get a sense that I was dealing with some low-level guys. Okay, as far as being with God, you hear this a lot. You could say that that watery, wispy guy was God. He certainly felt incredible, but I don't think so. I think I was dealing with technicians, and I think there's a whole lot out there. I think there's a whole lot out there. I really do. It's unlimited.
I have 2 questions. I'll try to make it quick. Thank you so much. My younger brother's a firefighter, so I would agree with your colleagues if I can help you set it up. He's in San Diego, but I would love for you to speak to them as well.
Oh, I don't know.
And I also want to thank Peter. This is how I found out about IANDS. I've been here a few times. So I have 2 questions, and I'll try not to get emotional on the second question. The first question is, so do we all have different missions? Or is the mission, our mission here is we're here to grow and enjoy life and so forth? Your specific mission is to help awaken, to teach this, to share this. And so the question is, do we all have like a very specific mission from what you understand? And then the second question is, my 17-year-old son took his life 3 months ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So when you said about the death and moving forward, I believe that. Is it the same for people that decide to go that way?
Yes. There's no judgment. There's none of that. There's none of that.
No, I know the no judgment, but his time, he came and he did what he had to do, and he was ready to go.
Yeah.
Just like a child with cancer. Maybe he is 6 years old. He's only been there 6 years. His parents wish he could stay longer. He'd done what he was supposed to do, and he was ready to go.
And the mission part, thank you.
Edgar Casey said it, and several of the others. Every human being has come here for a mission, and everyone is special and unique. There's nothing special and unique about me. I've just been given the vision that everybody is special and unique, and that's as far. I mean, I'm a nobody. You're special and unique. You came here for a reason, and if you sit in silence, if you spend time with that right brain, it all comes very clear.
And you ask for that guidance, because I really, whether you call it praying or whatever you want to call it, when I ask for the guidance and I say, I'm here to be your hands, your heart, and put someone in front of me that needs help, then give me the gift that I can give to them so that they'll be helped by that, then I realize that that's what I'm here to do. That's my job here. I'm supposed to be doing that. And I'm supported in every way to do that. So your gift is something perhaps different. So you find out what your gift is. What can you give to others? What can you do? What are you here to learn? And then that's what you follow through with. You don't have the same, and he doesn't have the same. None of us have the same. But it's finding yours.
I asked that because I'm sort of getting to where my gifts are, and Peter actually helped me a lot with that too.
He's great.
I had actually heard that really sort of that's the mission. We're all just here to enjoy life and have fun. But so the more question was more kind of specific about that.
We also have negative things that happen to us. Like in my situation, I had a really abusive person I was married to. And I don't hate him now, but I had a really traumatic time with him when I was married to him. I needed to learn specifics from him, and then I found the strength to get away, and now I'm able to use that in my life to help others that are in dangerous situations and abuse and etc. If I hadn't lived that myself, I wouldn't have been able to help people like that. So it's really interesting how the things will all add up as you get further and further. I'm 62 now, and I'm really seeing how things in my life added up to give me gifts that I am able to use now. And that's where we're all here to do.
Thank you, both of you and everybody here for putting this together. I will share that my son was adopted, but a month ago we had a birthday remembrance for him. He would have been 18. And I shared that I now know that he and I made a contract before we came into this world.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm supposed to do. So his death helped me with
He
that.
still loves you from the other side, and he wants to see you happy. And he wants to see you find all the, gifts that you have in your life.
I've been told he's doing cartwheels on the other side.
Right. He's like,
Right.
he's
Yeah.
home. He's having a
Absolutely.
good time. Yeah.
Welcome.
Is there anybody else? Okay, question. Okay, and then probably this one and one more, and then we'll be done.
So first of all, thank you very much for sharing. And I was just curious, how has your wife integrated all of this now, today?
I'm still crazy.
She getting it?
No, I was coming down here today, and Kevin gave me an email, and I go, oh no, these fire guys know. They know I'm doing this thing, and she goes, well, now you're Captain Woo Woo. That's how much help she is. No, she's
you
sweet.
guys will have to razz Danny Paulin, because I asked Danny to come. He was over at our house this week. He and Victor went to high school. My husband's in the back there, and they went to high school together. And Danny said he was going to come tonight, but I don't see Danny.
We served refugio together today, he and I.
Well, you're going to tell him he missed a darn good meeting tonight. Yeah,
Oh,
he should have come.
No, I got one moment when the tears were streaming.
40 years,
in 40 years.
But see, we're all at different levels, and he's more advanced. He's getting more advanced stuff. And there are people that just can't get it because they're not quite here yet. They haven't gone as much lives. They haven't gone through as much stuff in their history. Peter will tell you that. And so they're not able to get it yet. So she's just a lovely person, but she's not quite there. Yeah.
If she stuck with him 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Her father founded the School of Architecture at Cal Poly. So
Wow.
she's probably way ahead of him.
In some areas, right? So one
I'd
more
agree with
question,
that.
then we'll be done. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's, quick ones. Although we can stay if we want to, so it's up to you guys.
Well, you mentioned eye gazing, and I love eye gazing, and I wrote my last partner, who was a fireman, a retired fireman, into eye gazing with me. And when we did that, our faces would change. He was a decade older than me, and I'm 60, and he would look like a 16-year-old Indian, like a Native American scout. And he would tell me that my face was also like really young. And that happened a number of times.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
And it's
believe
reminding me, I've forgotten, but it's like, oh, I have to find another eye-gazing partner, just to have that experience. So, and thank you so much. I was engaged the entire time you were talking, not one moment of wanting to be anywhere
great.
else.
Yeah, I thought
Thank
I
you.
better get out of here. Go out the side door or something. I'm killing them.
I noticed that some of the creatures you had on there kind of looked like extraterrestrials that supposedly look like. Is there some reason why they look the same as those, or what? Maybe I'm just wrong, but I mean like some of the grays or whatever they call those guys.
Well, I'm crazy, but I think a lot of this stuff is flopped. I don't know. Somebody got a hold of our information channels, and everything's upside down.
Yeah.
Life is wonderful, and we're focused on fear. It's being pumped into us all the time. All this left brain stuff, and the reality is we are really special. We're looked after, we're loved, and we have no problems. So yeah, the alien thing. Peter is an expert on that. But from we're being told that a lot of our divinity is something else. And I know that sounds like a nutcase, but when you start looking for yourself, I started knocking on doors and bigger doors, and then the whole building fell on me. And when you start doing that, you just go, okay, everything's wrong. let's just start over.
We've been misled for many centuries now, and I think that's what's the hardest thing for people to grasp. Although I've been asked to talk about my near-death experience in a hospital and in a Presbyterian church, so things are opening, and I think it's opening a lot faster than we had ever guessed that it would. I think that this is a new era in the world, and I think that everybody's going to start understanding a lot more. So there's nothing to fear with aliens, I don't think at all. Okay, so go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Bill. I really feel your gratitude for your experiences. Thank you, and I've had some of them. I have my own spiritual path, which guides me through my journey here. But I wondered, Barbara, do you have a weekly or monthly group that meets for other people who are seekers? I wondered if you have something specific, congregation that people could come to.
Well, if you had any kind of a spiritually transformative experience, which would be a near-death experience, an out-of-body experience, a shared death experience, or anything else that you consider spiritually transformative, prior to this meeting from 7 to 9, Peter Wright and Danny Antman, is Danny still here? I think she had to leave. So Peter Wright and Danny Antman lead the experiencer circle. And it's for anyone who self-identifies as having had an experience and just wants to go in and talk about anything that they had happen or that they're facing in their life, or any conversation that and the whole group participates, or you can sit there completely quiet and not say a word if you want to. So it's a really
do you
cool
have
group.
scheduled meetings like this is Wednesday?
Once a month.
Once a month,
Second
okay.
Wednesday.
Because I've been trying to find you. But it's, thank you. I just wondered if other people might want to have an idea of how they could nurture their experience ongoing in a community, sort of.
I think there's a lot of stuff here, but do you know of anything that you would refer them to? I mean, Peter Wright does past life regression therapy, and it's been, other than my near-death experience, I mean, obviously he's done, and so had the lady in the back there to Peter. That was hugely amazing for me to have the experience that I had with Peter, and seeing a previous life that I had, that was huge for me. So I don't know of anything else that's like a meeting type thing. There's lots of things that, the problem is there's so much stuff out there that you don't know which one is really the right one to go to, is what I always felt like, is these people saying the right thing, or is that person saying the right thing? So I never really knew where to go. But
Yeah, I have a path that I really value, and it gives me support and nurturing. And so I was just wondering for other seekers here tonight, if they knew that you even gather before your monthly meeting is a good information to have, because it's an ongoing process and a journey, and nurturing it and learning from each other is a valuable experience.
Well, if you know of anything and you have a brochure that you want to bring to IANDS, you can put it out on the literature table, and if you bring me a bunch of them, like if it's not a date thing, like it's not for this particular date, we'll just keep putting them out month after month after month, and we display a whole bunch of stuff for people to look at and decide what they would like to pursue, whether it's a medium, whether it's a group, whether it's something else. So yeah.
And I love that. I love the suggestion that you ask, because for me, remembering to ask and then be quiet and listen are the two things which I need lots more practice with.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, everybody, I think, we got one more. Okay, one more and then we're done. Okay. Thanks for staying around, everybody.
You were speaking of aliens and different kinds of guides, and I've just been learning more about the Anunnaki and how they possibly were seeding the human race and experimenting. I wondered if you had read anything about that or knew much about that.
I've heard that group before, but I don't know much about them. I can tell you that everything that I've encountered has been joyous and sweet. And once you get out of the earth plane, there's a lot of trouble. There's a lot of trouble down here with souls that are lost and stuff. But once you are in the universe, everything out there is just having a great time. And it's like the bar scene in Star Wars. It's everything. It's everything. It's unlimited. And I think that's one reason a lot of these people, the shamans, the spiritual teachers and the shamans, they have this, and I'm included in this, but they have this incredible respect and love for all forms of life, even like a spider. And I think that's one of the keys to opening some of these doors. Because when you do that, then when you travel, there's no judgment, there's no fear. It's just another creature. And everything wants to live their life, in love.
And looking beyond people's outer perimeter for their heart and looking for who they are is the most important thing, not judging on whether that man is on the sidewalk and he obviously is homeless, or that man is in a lab coat and he's obviously a doctor. So not having those judgments is the most important thing in looking for the beauty in people's lives. And not everybody is going to be beautiful, of course, because there's all these different levels of their growth in this world and what they've gone through in their previous lives. And so, there are going to be people that are problematic and et cetera. But I think looking for beyond the outer perimeter and looking beyond into who they are and taking the time to look inside, I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, no judgment. Okay, we're done. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill Letson.
Woo! Thank you.
Appreciate every